Hello, this is Sonia Thomas with Kansas City Business Association, and I'm here today. I want to introduce you to a great friend of mine who is a phenomenal businessman, Mike Adkins, and he's going to talk to us about his personal story as well as his business, which is Serenity Funeral Home, and how he kind of got into that business. So, thank you so much, Mike, for being here today. My first thing for you is tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, maybe the high school you went to, a little bit about your personal story.
Thank you for having me first and foremost. But I am a Kansas City native. I went to elementary in Kansas City, middle school, Southeast Middle, and of course, high school, Southwest High School. So I am a Kansas City native.
All right. So you went to the best high school in Kansas City, which was South.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. We wanted to get that in there. We want to make sure that people are aware that there were some great products that came out of Southwest, and you happen to be one of those. So, my first question for you outside of that is, so the funeral industry is not something that we typically decide that that's what we want to do, career wise. How did you decide that you wanted to be a mortician and ultimately a funeral home owner?
Well, I was introduced to the funeral industry when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. My mother took me to this place that I had a lot of family and friends at, um, and cousins. And so we went to this place and everybody was crying. And we went and looked at a person laying there in what I thought at the time was a nice box. And so after I go view this person in this nice box that I didn't know, I wanted to go play with my cousins. And my mother quickly snatched me up and said, "You can't play here." And I'm like, "Well, this is my cousins, that's my uncles. What do you mean I can't play here? When I see them, it's time to play." And I try to go over to them, they're crying, and I'm like, "What are y'all crying for? Where are we at? What is this? What's going on?" And it just triggered something at a very young age. Um, and so I went to like three services back to back, and it was the same concept. So it really clicked something inside me to where I held on to that when I did go to middle school. And that's when they started the science, math, magnets. Well, they had a lot of magnets, but I chose Southeast because of the science, math, magnet program. Math, I can add, subtract, multiply, divide, but science was my thing. So I focused on science. We had to do a science project every year. I simply did a paper on funeral service, the funeral service and the embalming process. Got an A. So when you get an A on a science project, you're like, hey. So next year I took it in further detail, got an A. And after leaving middle school, I went to high school. And I had a counselor who cared, Miss Ruby Brown. Never forget her. She pulled me to the side. She said, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" It was two options at that time. I liked trucks, so I was like, "I want to be either a truck driver." She's like, "That's good. But what else is inside you?" And I said, "Funeral service." She said, "That's it." So she kind of did some homework, found a university that offered a degree in funeral service, which at that time was University of Central Oklahoma in Edmond, Oklahoma. That was the closest place that would offer a degree. And so she did her research and she got with my mother. And before I knew it, I was going to University of Central Oklahoma to go on a college visit. And I went there, and this thing called college had uh, all these different people here, and I loved it. And before you know it, I was going to college and stuck with my major and got with some upperclassmen, and they were taking funeral service classes for electives. And we clicked, and I hung in there, and I did an apprenticeship there in Oklahoma City for a family-owned firm, Raw Funeral Home that's in Oklahoma City. They introduced me. They kind of gave me the foundation of funeral service, and I loved it. And so, they knew I was from Kansas City, so they called ahead and talked with a local family-owned funeral home that I worked at for 18 years after college. And so, yeah, they kind of set the foundation. So when I came home, I had a place to come home and go to work and continue my career in funeral service. But it was never a secret. I always, Miss Brown said, do your best in funeral service. So I was like, what do you mean, Miss Brown? She said, it's room in Kansas City for you to have your own. And I said, but I work for the largest firm. Why do I want my own? She said, you'll see. She never said anything else, but along the walk, I figured it out. And it was never a secret with the firm I was worked at for 18 years. I always told them my aspirations. I think they kind of downplayed it and really didn't believe that one day that I was going to step out on faith and do my own thing.
Yeah, because when you talk about, you know, wanting to own a funeral business, I remember, of course, you talking about this funeral business, and when we met, you were already working in the industry. And when you shared that that was your aspiration, I was thinking he's real like this. What he want to do for real? Like this is not just something he's talking about. And so since that time, when I really realized you were serious, I was like watching out to see, how would all come about. So here we are in 2013, and 2013, 2023.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were taking me back. I was like, yeah, I knew where I was in 2013.
Yeah. So here we are in 2023, and you have your own business, Serenity. Tell us about how you started, where you started. What were some of the obstacles in opening up your own funeral home?
Well, the probably the biggest obstacle was stepping out on faith. I have a strong mentor and spiritual leader, and that's Apostle Aiken. One day he was preaching a sermon. All I remember that day was step out on faith. That kind of just stuck with me. And I went to where I was working at the time. And when you work for a company, family owned, any you're going to think different on some things. But that one particular day, I had some strong beliefs on what I had, and they had some strong beliefs on what they had, and it was that day that I said, I think it's time for me to put in my resignation and me to do my own. And of course, they accepted, and they were thinking that he's not going to do it. But at that particular time, it was sleepless nights. It was 22-hour days, preparing. And my last day at that particular firm was on August 31st, and September 1st, Serenity Funeral Home opened. Of course, we had a smaller location. This is our second location that we're at now. Of course, at our smaller location, it was, we were a little bit off of Main Street. We were on off 72nd Street between Prospect and Wabash. So, we were right there in a neighborhood. So, we had a lot of neighbors thinking, oh Lord, we have a funeral home in our neighborhood. But nothing ever happened. They always looked out for us, welcomed us, and we grew. We kind of from the day one, we just started growing phenomenally. Some of the obstacles is just that, like you talked about as far as people going into funeral service. By me being in the industry, it's a certain somebody that this industry takes. Either you have it or you don't. And I think I have a pretty good eye and for anybody that works on the team. I like to hand select. And sometimes they can walk in the door, but a lot of time I already know who I wanted. So yeah, I put the team together, and luckily most of us have been together since day one. Of course, we've added some, but hey, it's been wonderful.
So you make it sound really easy, like, hey, I just opened it up and then we
No,
started
no, no,
growing,
no, no, no.
right? But we know that there had to be, some extreme challenges with that. And I think the challenge is not the most interesting part, is how you handle the challenge. So when you say it takes, a special kind of person to work in this industry, what are some of the characteristics that you felt like you had that would just make you, as successful as you are?
Well, along that walk, I did work for a firm those 18 years, but along those 18 years, I also worked for the city of Kansas City, 12 of those years, where I was able to hold two full-time jobs down. And when I say 22-hour days, you can about imagine holding two full-time jobs down. You can't be lazy. You have to have tough skin and endurance. So, along this walk, working two jobs, I met a lot of people, kind of told them my dreams, and I tried to make friends along the way, not enemies. So when I did step out on faith, they can remember me telling them, "Hey, he said he was going to do this." And that's one of the keys I think everybody embraced, is he always, and I hear it to this day, you always said you were going to do this. So I guess I never talked about nothing but funeral service after that, after my mom kind of took me to this place, and been nothing but funeral service since. But yeah, so also working those 12 years, I was able to save, and I used my everything, all my retirement from the city of Kansas City, to just step out on faith and put it into the business. And of course, with any business, you're not going to be in the green in the beginning. So it's a lot of stressful nights. What am I going to do? So I stay prayerful, uh, and it. I don't want to make it sound easy, but it's definitely obtainable. You just have to believe in yourself, number one, and then know who surrounds you, because you can't let negative all the negatives around you. You can't let that fester into your soul during this walk. It's already a fragile walk, so you definitely have to know who surrounds you. You need that encouragement on those days where it looks bleak. You need that person in your ear saying it's gonna be all right. You can do it. Hang in there.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really sit back and watch about you, and really kind of wonder how you do it, is you stay like really even. I mean, you have your moments like we all do, but 90% of the time, you are just real even, and nothing, really seems to bother you, even though I know that you have things that bother you. And so we talked about what some of the challenges were, but what are some things that you're really proud that you've accomplished during this time? You haven't even been on your own for 10 years, and you've really just done some tremendous things with, your activity in the community and giving back and making sure that families are served well, that we treat them well when they're there at the funeral home. So, what are some things that you would say, like your top three, that you're really proud of about what you've done with your business?
Well, um, along with me, of course, it's a team. So, number one is being able to employ um, other Kansas City natives. It's not my family. Everybody that works here is family to me. So, being able to just grow the family, and we everybody. Well, I guess one of the guys that I did bring in from out of state. But when I met this young man, he reminded me a lot of myself. His testimony kind of reflect, my testimony in different ways, but he's the only one that I've brought in from out of state. And that's because with me, it takes, I like to hand pick them, and either you have it or you don't. So I had to go out of state for one, but everybody else is from here. So that's probably one. Number two is, in order to be a good leader, you must first be a good follower. And the place that I was working at for those 18 years, I gave them 18 great years. I met a lot of people and I studied leadership. And the things that I didn't understand along that walk, my, do I understand now. And so, that would be number two. And number three is just being able to take the risk of when you're doing business, you have to know when to take the risk of expanding. You could always stay comfortable. Like I say, we started at a smaller location. Of course, small location, there's a lot smaller bills and et cetera. And of course, now here, since we've expanded and moved to our 1101 location, this is a 26,000 square foot facility. And just being able to expand and not be scared of going to what facility that's six times the size you started in. So,
Yeah, that's a
you
big
know,
deal.
it's definitely big, and so I'm definitely proud of that. So I think those would be my top three.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to allow you some space to share with us the words that you live by because I love the words that you live by, and I wish I had came up with that myself. But since I didn't, I'm gonna let you, tell us, where did you get that from and how did you decide that this was gonna be your personal statement about you as a person, about you as a business owner? How did you decide that, man, this really fits me?
Well, like I say, I had a good foundation, and some things you don't understand as a youth, adolescent, as the older folks used to always tell me, just keep on living,
Let's
just
keep
keep
on
on
living.
living, and I was able to have some good pillars in my corner that always spoke life into me. I had an uncle that was more like a father. He played no games. Hey, failure was not an option with him. Failure was not an option. He used to always say, I'm with you when you're right. I'm with you wrong to get you right. So he was gonna be with you, but he wanted you right. So,
Right.
people like that always spoke life into me. And I have like I say, my spiritual leaders, I've been with them since '01, and of course they came into my life at a time where I needed them. Everything happens for a reason. So they came into my life and it's been nothing but positive. So, I have a spiritual foundation, and that's definitely key. If anybody knows me, my famous lines is, "May the work I've done speak for me." And I if you think that alone, if I tell myself that every day. So regardless of what I'm going through, if I'm going through something, I don't need the whole community to see I'm going through it. I keep in my mind, may the work I've done speak for me. So I was at the city, I gave the city my best, but ultimately funeral service was my thing. So when I had those side conversations on, I'm here for now, but I ain't gonna be here too long. I never envisioned being there 12 years. Sometimes it's not about when you want to do things. It's got to be, like I said, I'm spiritual, so you gotta listen to the man above to tell you and give you that guidance and know when to move. So,
Well, I definitely appreciate you giving me your time today. I know that this is not your favorite thing to do, but I thought it was important that you share your story and be able to have some time to reflect on the things that you have accomplished because you are a wonderful role model. a wonderful friend, and a wonderful employer all around. And so sometimes it's okay to just pat yourself on the back. So I appreciate you taking time with me today. Again, Mike Adkins, and I am Sonia Thomas with Kansas City Business Association. And I will leave you with my words to thine own self be true. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.